I am super excited to have two great folks from our friends at Impact 21 on the presentation docket today. So we have both Bill and Jeannie, both really longtime experts in the customer and loyalty space. They've done a lot of work through convenience and other retailing formats that we are honored to be able to have their expertise here. They've spent a lot of time and effort in thinking about this topic of loyalty, and we're really lucky to be able to have them here. We, at the end of this program, we'll send around both this webinar and the slide deck that they're using and their contact information. So please reach out to them post-fact for other questions or engagements or any way that they can be helpful as well. So without much further ado, Bill and Jeannie, I'll turn the time over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen and let you two take it away.
That's great. Thanks, Morgan. Hey, on behalf of Jeannie, myself, Impact 21, we just want to thank MarketDial for this opportunity. It's nice to be here with you today, and there's a lot changing and evolving in this loyalty business. So while I bet just about everybody that's listening today knows a lot about loyalty and loyalty marketing, there are always things that are changing, and we've seen this whole area of marketing discipline just evolve and grow and change. And so what we're going to do today for a few minutes is just talk about clarifying some terms and kind of setting some ground rules a little bit, just so you have a better understanding of how we think about the business, and then have a little bit of research to share with you so you can get an idea of how effective, how important loyalty is in this day and age. And then we'll talk a little bit about how the whole consumer purchase journey is evolving. And then probably the most interesting part of this discussion to me today is we're going to talk about, Jeannie and I have had the opportunity to work together for about 3 years. And I even heard when I first met you, Jeannie, I was listening to you present at a conference about the Flash Foods program that you had run for a number of years. And you had a very unique perspective, and that perspective, as we know, and we're going to share today, has grown into this sort of revelation about an intersection of customer loyalty and category management and just operations within retail, in convenience retail and fuel. So definitely some new ground to break, and so interested just to share all that with you. It should be fun. I hope you all enjoy it. So let's get going. As we just talk about concepts, so this is something fascinating to me. Just there's something about the human nature of all of us, and then maybe something, if you're a human who's a marketer, you get a double dose of this. We love buzzwords and we love terms, but we also like the certainty of kind of being able to know what particular terms mean and check that off mentally and say, yeah, I get that. So what typically will happen is if I walk into a room and talk about customer loyalty, there's a certain perception and people jump and they think about certain things. So I just want to kind of share with you our perspective on it. But customer loyalty in our mind is the pinnacle goal of your customer-centric marketing efforts. So it's not an easy one to achieve, is it? I mean, in this day and age, people have so many choices and are presented with so much information and opportunity that to think that you can create a truly loyal customer who will always patronize you and never stray away, that's probably a pretty tall order. But what we are trying to do that's well within our grasp to be successful in is to create this state of mind amongst our customers where when they get into a certain category, they're thinking about buying gas, they're going to buy coffee in the morning, they're going to maybe buy some clothes, so that they give our brand a share of mind that they're not giving to another one. So creating true customer loyalty to me is creating some of that mind share to people, and it's all it creates a certain advantage, financial advantage for both parties. But a lot of times when we talk about customer loyalty, what most people that are in the conversation jump to is they think we're talking about their loyalty program. And loyalty programs are great. They are a means to an end. They create a very valuable framework to have this value exchange between our brand and our customers, and also they give us a way to measure the impact of the investment that we're making in these programs. And by the way, the loyalty program should be win-win for all of us. So it should create some financial return for you as a retailer, if you are a retailer, and it should also create some benefits for the customer, which is why we get that emotional share of mind and that sort of right of first refusal with them when they talk to us. So, but the loyalty program is just a thing. It is a vehicle, and that's what I would emphasize to you so much, is that loyalty programs do not mean currency programs. It can be any type of structure, model, and as you probably have seen, there's more and more variety in the type of models that are being executed today in the marketplace. So how do we do all this? I mean, we want to create customer loyalty. We use loyalty programs in a lot of senses, but it's loyalty marketing that I think of as the discipline. If you think about direct marketing, that had certain connotations. Well, loyalty marketing to me is a discipline within the overall marketing effort that requires organizational commitment. And it means that we really and truly are putting our customers first. We're going to try to use our data smartly to be able to connect with them. And the end goal is not to get something from them, but it's to truly create some kind of a equitable exchange between the two, where we create trust, we create long-term value, and we create a better means of communication between ourselves and our customers. So, and we might touch on this some more later, but the communications that we normally see within a loyalty program are much, much more valuable and reliable than they are through survey and other third-party means of research. So the message in all of this is that if your goal is customer loyalty, if you're talking about becoming a more customer-centric organization, then what you need to do is practice loyalty marketing. But so many people are thinking, hey, I want customer loyalty. What's my program all about? And they're forgetting that they need to practice the loyalty marketing discipline, kind of instill that in your culture within your organization to get the results that you're looking for. So I hope that helps, because so many times I'll talk to somebody about customer loyalty and all they think is that Bill wants to talk to me about a points-based loyalty program, and it's anything but that. So a question that we get asked very often is whether or not loyalty programs are effective still today. It seems like everybody has one. And the more prevalent they are, the more you might say, well, they're really just like everyone else. So isn't it a discount, or isn't it just like another coupon or offer that's out there? But we did some research, we being the Wise Marketer Group, and a company named Merritt's Motivation, which has a very big research group, and did some research in 2019, surveyed a very large audience of consumers. And we found a few things. We found out that loyalty programs continue to be a really strong influence on consumer behavior. So you can see here, but about 82% had told us that they were more likely to purchase more often from a company when they had a program and when they were active in their program. So, the good news is that even though programs are everywhere, consumers were telling us in the research that some say they prioritize those as part of the value proposition, but the vast majority, over 80%, say that, yeah, it's important. So it's an expectation these days, which is something to think about, because if you don't have a program, it's an expectation that maybe you're lacking. If you do have a program, it's an expectation that that program be special and different based on the unique brand assets that you have. So it's probably a good time to look at it and say, what do we really have here? And do we want to retool it or upgrade it or change it in some way, shape, or form?
Bill, actually, question on that for you is maybe twofold. Do you see this change by vertical at all? And maybe, I don't know if you have data or kind of anecdotally from your experience where it seems to be more important in some segments than other. And then second, does it seem also to, does the impact of this also rise and fall based on how well that company manages it, or how active the company is in that program as well?
Okay, those are two good questions. So the impact is across the board. However, there's there's a more pointed difference, I think. If you think about airline and travel and banking or financial services and some retail, they're mature industries with loyalty. And so if anything, people could tend to take those kind of programs for granted, and they're looking more for other aspects of the offer, the customer experience and such, to make a difference maybe in their brand preference. So there's a lot of pressure on people running programs in those sectors to try to differentiate their program, have it become more powerful, more meaningful. But what we've seen is some emerging categories. Casual dining is one, QSR is another, and convenience retail is probably the biggest one, where we've seen just a refreshed focus on the customer. And so, look across this industry and you'll see all different types of customer marketing programs and efforts. And they're all becoming very central to the customer experience and in-store operations. So I think in that case, the programs are even more essential. And to answer the second question, I mean, I've talked to many people on a casual basis, friends of mine, and when they say, what do you do for a living? And I'll say, well, I'm if you say you're working with customer loyalty programs, and they look at you and they say, what do you mean? Well, something like a frequent flyer program, or that program you have over there at your local convenience store. And they say, oh, and they immediately, because they're thinking about the program, they'll either tell you they like it or they don't like it. Well, guess what? The programs that people don't like are the ones that were just thrown out there with maybe not enough planning, and they were thought of more as just another marketing campaign as opposed to a serious part of their customer marketing efforts. So yeah, the results will vary greatly based on organizational commitment and the level of, I guess, planning and focus on execution.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a ton of sense.
Absolutely. So here was something else. We were really interested to find out a couple things. Two types of customers kind of surfaced in the research, and you can tell the researchers are more academically oriented than I am, because they came up with this name of the ephemerals and the unshakables. So I had to look up ephemeral. An ephemeral says, lasting for a very short time. So this is, if something is ephemeral, it's like a perfume that you smell for a bit and then it's gone, a flower or something like that, but it's not really lasting. So the ephemerals in this definition of the research was customers who valued loyalty, valued their brands, had some favorites, but they were always evaluating the offer, and they were always kind of open-minded to making a change. On the other hand, the unshakables were people who had made their choice and were going to stick with it. So they were much more insulated, the unshakables, to a service problem, a price increase, just some kind of bad experience. So within these two groups, when you looked at it, we said, well, wait a minute, loyalty programs are everywhere, but 70% of the people that surveyed identified into this ephemeral group. So essentially, the pool of opportunity for every retailer out there is probably 70% of the customer base. You probably have your, call it 30%, that's highly loyal to you or another brand, and they're going to be tough to change. I mean, they're highly valuable. So the ones that you have, you want to hang on to. But they might be harder to shift from others. But that 70% represents a tremendous opportunity for you and for your brand if you can have some impact amongst that group.
Is the goal, would you say, Bill, in this case, to convert that 70 into the 28, so to speak, so to convert from ephemeral to unshakable? Or is there some underlying thing of these 70 who they might just kind of always be ephemeral, or is that target of the loyalty program to kind of turn them into that unshakable?
There probably is a percentage, Morgan, of the 70% ephemerals that can be converted into unshakables. But even if you just go on the premise that you've got this 70% that's in play, and they're probably not going to change characteristics so much, it just tells you that you have to focus so much on what you can do to attract them and what you can do to differentiate your brand from another. So I think there's some percentage that can be converted that will become increasingly loyal to your brand over time as you continue to improve it and reinforce it. But there's also pretty large demographic of people these days that just show up each day and say, prove it to me all over again. And that's where I think execution is really important in these programs. You could probably jump to the next slide, I think. So we're at a really interesting point. You know, I call it a pivotal moment in loyalty marketing, call it customer marketing. And to me, a lot of it's been defined by this disruptive economy. And I'm not talking about 2020 and coronavirus and all of that, but even before, there's so many more choices for consumers than we've ever had, all of us. We've got access to more data than ever. We can go and find out anything we'd like about a particular brand any time of the day or night. We can look in different channels, and we get to ask our friends, our family. We get recommendations. We're looking on, you know, posts on social boards, trying to see what does somebody think about that product or that brand. So it has created this chaotic path to purchase. So if I had shown you what you're looking at right now on screen 5 years ago, it might have been the old horizontal line, which went from brand awareness to acquisition, purchase, repurchase, retention, that sort of thing. The straight line, maybe funneling people right into where they're walking in your store or going to your website and making a purchase, but it's anything but that now. I think that it's probably the reason that we've focused so much on engagement rather than loyalty in some ways lately, because we know that we have to, quote, engage customers well before the time that they've really gotten to know us or have even stepped in our store. And so the opportunity to do that is through social and, you know, reviews and being, quote, helpful, offering life hacks to people and trying to generate an army of people that are willing to share opinions, recommendations, things like that. So this path to purchase has become very complex for most brands. But even in the midst of that, we know a couple of things. And we know that people do value still certain things. And in this convenience retail space, they obviously value convenience, but they're also looking at, you know, they're looking at speed, they're looking at value, they're looking at, you know, at price. Those are kind of the foundational elements that you just are not going to get away from in this category. And I think the opportunity for us to further differentiate, it's almost like the table stakes for the speed, convenience, value, price. Could we do a better job on quality? Yeah, sure. Could we transform our stores to make them a really inviting place to stop and hang out and check Wi-Fi and have coffee? Absolutely. And, you know, could we use technology to bring more efficiency to our marketing efforts? Absolutely as well. And so the connection that we're seeing in convenience retail, which Jeannie's going to talk about now, is how we're connecting the strategy to engage and build loyalty with customers into the operational aspects of how we run our business. So that's the piece where we're finding a lot of new ground.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep, Jeannie, it's all yours there.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about this chaotic path to purchase and all the key elements that we're supposed to be paying attention to understand and anticipate what our customers expect from you as a brand. So it's a lot of data points to pull in. And so I want to focus on a few areas today that are going to give some really strong data points and maybe even some areas that haven't been thought about. And as Bill said, there's been kind of a clear path with loyalty, and that has continued to evolve, and new things are emerging, and we're getting a lot better at this loyalty program management and all the key components that go into managing a program to truly be successful as a retailer. So there's a premium being put on the customer, and so it's extremely important to collect this data and utilize it to build and strengthen the relationship with the customer. A few of the opportunities to do that, as we all know, is the data that we collect from our point of sale, understanding what the customer is purchasing, what stores they're purchasing at, what time of day they're making those purchases. Is it inside? Is it outside? And through a loyalty program, you're actually able to identify all of those elements as well as identify who the customer is. data and analytics around a loyalty program adoption. So again, we want to understand all the consumer data that is specific for that one customer. So you're not looking at all areas of your business. You're looking at each individual customer separately. You're able to look at program adoption, what those customer participation levels are, and how are they engaging with your brand? Are they doing it through mobile? Are they doing it with a card? Are they utilizing an Alt ID? So you're able to kind of create a program that is customizable for each individual customer. So you're able to allow them to engage with the program in a method that is more ease of use for them, and also communicate to that customer in a way that's more relevant to them. Maybe that's through texting versus emailing, or maybe that's communication through their app. And you're going to learn all of those things by analyzing your loyalty program and the adoption of your customers with that. One of the biggest areas that I want to talk about today is category management. And as a previous category manager, prior to being involved in loyalty platforms and programs, it's an area that is a little bit siloed, especially if you are managing a few categories. You're not really sure how those engage with other categories, and you definitely don't have complete insight into what the actual customer expects from that category. So there's a lot of information you get as a category manager, and you get tons of analytics around that encompass all aspects of the business. That's trade management and business planning and assortment analysis, and even consumer awareness. But you get these invaluable business insights and actionable recommendations from loyalty that help you create a better environment within your category management. Typically, you are looking at, in category management, you're looking at data that is around your point of sale, and that could be internal and external. You're looking at syndicated data, consumer data, and marketing data, but again, it's not necessarily relevant to your customer base. So a loyalty program is going to bring in another level of that information to allow more insight of your category managers. And I'll share a little bit more about that in just a moment. We'll dig a little deeper into that aspect. Bill mentioned earlier that I presented years ago, and he was a part of that event. And I spoke a lot about what it looks like from a loyalty program management standpoint and how that affects your operations team. And part of that is ensuring, and to effectively manage that, is ensuring that your customer feedback, that you're gathering all of that from all customer touch points, and that you have somewhat of an integrated customer service approach where you're developing this strategy that's going to create trust and confidence with your brand. So taking all of your touch points with your customer, that's mobile, social, website, your customer call center, ensuring that any feedback that's coming from your store employees and your field people is all going into one database. That could include online reputation management as well. So that could include everything from TripAdvisor to app reviews around your mobile app. So pulling in all of that data to learn what your customer pain points are and correcting that with your loyalty program, and being able to communicate through your loyalty program with your customer base on improvements that you've made. Next would be loyalty marketing, and Bill has talked a lot about that. It's one of those things, especially in convenience, marketing has somewhat been separate from loyalty program management. It's of course part of the conversation, but not necessarily as strong as it should be. Loyalty is somewhat your brand identity moving forward, and it gives you the ability to market to a consumer like never before. And so loyalty marketing is a truly valuable component of being able to engage with your customers. And last and not least would be your campaign and digital management as well. So making sure that you're truly communicating with your customers based off of information that they want to see in a way that they want to see the information, and that you're using that ability to communicate with your customers to actually change their behavior. So pulling all of those in together is kind of putting all the pieces of the puzzle of loyalty programs together, so that you can engage more effectively with your customer through all of this data that you're going to collect with all of these points.
Gee, this might be a bit of a diversion, and we can pick it up later or never if you want, but how regularly do you find retailers of all stripes kind of ready to take this on? Those are a lot of big puzzle pieces, so to speak, and especially tying them all together. Are they ready and able to do the block and tackle of actually the data collection and management and that kind of stuff, such that you, when you show up, can help them just get right to work on, building out the broader program, or does it typically take some groundwork to get them ready?
That's a really good question, and actually kind of leads into some other areas that I'm headed in just a minute. But I think you're correct. You're correct. It's a lot of ground to cover, and so there is definitely some foundational work that has to be implemented before we can come in and help. From a loyalty marketing and campaign and digital aspect, you want to make sure that you have that integrated customer service team. You want to ensure that you're getting data from your point of sale that is very accurate and reliable information. You want to ensure that you have an effective loyalty platform, and you want to ensure that your category management team is a part of this conversation. So yeah, there's a lot of foundational work to pull all of these elements in together. But Bill said it in the beginning, you need loyalty marketing to have customer loyalty. And to be able to truly market to your loyal customer base, or to create that loyal customer base, you've got to pull in all of these key components of a program to truly be successful.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. And I can imagine it can take some time to get it right, but super important to do so.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of retailers, especially in the convenience environment, didn't necessarily spend a lot of time on all of these areas in the past. It was a method of offering discounted product to customers, and there wasn't a lot of individual targeted communications going out to customers. But the program has continued to evolve in convenience, and the expectation of the consumer has continued to evolve as well. And so convenience has to really catch up to this and have all of the data that they need to communicate effectively and be competitive in the marketplace. All right, so that leads us into, let's talk a little bit about what this data looks like. Data is a big word in the industry, and a big word in all of retail industry right now. And so building a strong discipline around data collection and the management of that is foundational for success. If you want to create value with your customers, you have to be respectful of the information that they are giving to you. They have very high expectations of how you're going to manage that data. They want to ensure that it's safe and secure within your environment, within your organization, and they also want to make sure that it's private, and that it's a fine line of communication with your customers as well, ensuring that you're not sending too much communication, and you're not necessarily getting personal with them, and you're respecting that privacy and not sharing that information with any third parties. It's also important to just collect information that you're ready to use, and not just all that you can. As you just mentioned, it's a lot to have internal resources to manage all of the big areas that I just talked about. So make sure that, especially early on, that you're collecting what you need and that you're going to actually be able to use it. And there's a lot of work and a lot of conversation around data privacy regulations right now. They're evolving on a daily basis. So make sure that you understand what should happen within your organization to ensure that that data is secure, and that you're very aware of what the regulations are and keeping up to date on what those changes are. Again, there's a ton of regulations that are changing on a very consistent basis, and there is and can be a lot of risk around that. So ensure that you're taking care of that. So we ultimately, good data, we want to make sure that you're not just collecting information, but it's actually accurate and useful information. So making sure that you're collecting data to serve your customer needs with very specific goals in mind. You're ultimately wanting to create a better customer experience for them. So that's getting them in quicker, making sure that it's a safe environment, it's a secure with the information that you're providing them, and that it's very relevant and valuable to them, and that it's also improving operational efficiencies. We want to continue in retail to always not just improve the customer experience, but also improve the employees within the operational team to be able to better serve their customers and have a better relationship, because I think we all know loyalty is about relationships. And if you've got a very ease of use at in-store level for your employees as well as your customers, then everyone is happy and has a very positive attitude about the program. Another great advantage of this, having really good data around your customers, is being able to communicate with your suppliers and deliver new innovative products first in market to your customers. That real-time data around shopping behaviors and purchases, again, is something that you can share with your manufacturers and your suppliers, and then in turn provide that high value to your customer base. Everyone loves to feel like they're special and loves to learn about new things before their friends do. So a loyalty program that you're able to stay on top of what's happening and what your customer needs are, and communicate that you have that value within your company, they're going to be super excited to share that information and get it with you first. And just a little side note here, grab this statistic from Forrester that insights-driven organizations are growing at an average of more than 30% annually. And I think that's just because you have a clear understanding of what the customer need is, or how you need to change your operations, new things that you need to bring in to your organization based off of what your customers are telling you. You're able to quickly implement those things and be agile. And those companies are the ones that are reaping the benefits from customer loyalty. I'm going to resort back and talk a little bit more about category management and what is this linkage between category management and loyalty, and how do we utilize these business insights and actionable recommendations that we're deriving from loyalty data to improve category management. Some questions that I'm going to pose here: how do customers perceive products? What are the unique attitudes of each consumer? What is the value delivered by each consumer? How should you segment stores based on unique consumer and competitive situations? These are all questions that a typical category level person is not necessarily going to have insight into. Many retailers and suppliers just don't have this information. They can't answer these questions and either don't have a loyalty program or not digging deep enough into the data to understand. This is a knowledge gap, and it makes it difficult or almost impossible for key decision makers within category management to decide how to allocate resources and drive those differentiated tactics that are going to create a better engagement with your customer base. And even if you have this capacity to create unique product assortments by store, what would you do? Who would you target, and with what? Category management is truly kind of the glue that unites the different business functions. It helps identify opportunities for sustainable growth, increase sales, and increase foot traffic. So when done correctly, it's going to grow your brand and help take your category managers from what I like to call aisle experts, where they're just kind of managing space based off of the category products that they have, to shopper experts, and truly building out planograms within your store that are going to engage with your customer base and give them expertise to truly be shopper experts.
Jeannie, have you guys found that this type of conversion from aisle to shopper experts takes changes in like internal team structure and really basic HR kind of stuff, like what teams are comprised, how teams are comprised, and what each of the roles looks like, or is this mostly arming these category teams, these IL experts right now, with better data, more rich data, so that they can turn themselves into the shopper expert?
I think it can be a little bit of both, right? Giving category managers insights into what is happening with the customer base as a whole. So providing them with what those key insights are, because they're the ones communicating with the actual suppliers and vendors. So they're able to take some of those insights back to those suppliers and vendors and maybe come to the table with more compelling offers after that. So I think truly understanding the customer base and not necessarily getting it just from the manufacturer's point of view, but truly understanding what that unique retailer has to offer, and then also understanding that each store can be different, and the expectation of the customer can be different. So it gives you the ability to drill a little deeper down, and not just create one planogram for, say, a salty snack that fits all stores, that you're getting a little customized into that opportunity. And it may be a store that is on a college campus that requires a lot more insight into the consumer, and loyalty is going to give you that insight to make better, actionable decisions.
Yeah, I could see that being really, really powerful.
So how do we make sure that we are using this loyalty data to maximize opportunities through a loyalty program and support that category management team? So we want to make sure we have this rich understanding of what customers are wanting, so that we can curate those customer specific rewards that are going to ultimately increase spend. And to your point, it can be a change in resources, but it's also a different way to look at things. And so I think the more information that is shared from a loyalty group, a marketing group, and even your merchandising team and operations, I've always looked at loyalty as a program that pulls all different facets of your business together. You have to pull in every aspect of your business and allow each of these groups to participate in the conversation, to understand how it impacts just them, but also how this program ties everything together, kind of with a neat little bow. It creates a situation where departments have to work together to increase and improve the customer experience. So ultimately, maximize these opportunities for a category manager is going to increase the frequency of trips and offers. So that's going to drive repeat business, which is ultimately going to give you growth in those categories. And so those managers are going to look really, really awesome. It's going to expand that basket size of those transactions, and those offers are going to drive add-on purchases. So that gives more, if different category managers have insights into how they can partner with other products to drive, that add-on purchase, that's great insight for them. It also, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, it gives you that ability to introduce new products, and because you've got that one-on-one communication with your customer base through a loyalty program, and you have the ability to drive trial with those new categories and products. And ultimately, those personal rewards are going to drive those deeper connections with customers and allow you to have more effective use of those vendor funding. So all of that insight's going to really give a category management team the tools to go back and negotiate very effectively with their suppliers and manufacturers. So taking all of that into consideration, you want to make sure that you're actually creating data-driven customer experiences. So you're integrating all of this information that you're getting, all of these data points, again, your social channels, your mobile, your website, all the customer feedback you're getting from all of those touch points. What is their purchase behavior? What is their payment behavior? Payments becoming really, really relevant, especially in today's environment. Customers are wanting a contactless payment. They're wanting multiple options outside of traditional debit and credit options. That may include Venmo and PayPal and other new methods. So you're wanting to make sure that you're taking all of that information into consideration. You're integrating that, you're analyzing all of it. And then you're taking the time to optimize. Okay, I know all of this and I understand my customer because I'm getting all of these data points. How can I actively optimize all of this, process it, and create segmentation so that I'm targeting customers with information that's very relevant to them, that is truly going to change their behavior. And then obviously execution of that. So ensuring that you're delivering it the correct way to the customer. That you're in compliance, you're making sure that you're following all guidelines around data privacy, age-restricted items, all of that. And then you're evaluating what that performance level is, again, so that you're continuing to communicate with that customer. And it's pretty simple, making sure that you're engaging with the right message at the right time through the right channels with all of your customers.
That's great, Jeannie. You know what? A lot of listening to you talk about this, I'm thinking that we've always known that loyalty programs could be one of the best and most effective communications vehicles for a retailer for the reasons that I was talking about before, where you have trust and connection and durability. You get to talk to people over time. And if you ask them opinions and questions, they're going to give you a really solid answer. So that and just being able to communicate with people in real time at the point of sale or in store at the pump, not to mention email. Those are all powerful aspects of loyalty programs. But when I think about redefining what it means to be a customer-centric organization and what that means for your loyalty program, if you're a retailer right now, the main thing I guess we'd want you to take away from this is to think about how the program is not just sitting over there by itself in the corner working like another marketing campaign, but it's reinforcing all of your key brand messages. It is that communications vehicle with your customers. And then it does more than just deliver promotions and discounts, but it actually builds community. So it goes to that very beginning of what we talked about, that you're building true customer loyalty that has an emotional component, and it has that ability to create that share of mind between customer and your brand. And, you know, all of that is wonderful. That's a commitment from the top level of your leadership down into the organization. But then how do we make that happen? And that's really what Jeannie was just talking about, and which to me, that's where I think one of the biggest opportunities for improvement is right now in the customer loyalty area. And this convenience sector is realize that the program touches so many different parts of your organization. And don't think of it maybe just as a marketing program, but think of it as something that can have internal clients or partnerships, if you want to use those words, so that you're working with category management and you're working with the people that do your fuel pricing, you know, all throughout the organization, your HR and training groups, things like that, because the program, to make it really work well and to achieve the goals like, you know, raising up your brand and building community, all those things, then this integration into the operations, especially category management and merchandising, the ones that Jeannie's been talking about, that is such an area of opportunity right now. So yeah, those are the things we've been thinking about. And Jeannie, I think you've seen some retailers do really well with this of late. And then I think you've also probably seen ones that are continuing to use funded promotions, but just maybe miss an opportunity, right? We've seen some of both.
Yeah, I think it's all over the board. I think we're just wanting to highlight some areas of opportunity for improvement. And it does take some foundational work and it does take some restructuring, but I think we all want to grow and improve. And this is just giving some insight into some areas that they can all grow and improve the process.
If Jeannie, Bill, if you both kind of look around at kind of the landscape right now, are there any retailers who are just absolutely knocking it out of the park, just really, really doing well? Sure, everybody's got room for improvement, but is there kind of a gold standard or someone that you know, you look to as doing a pretty great job? Any examples?
What do you think, Jeannie? I think there's a lot of examples. I don't know if there's I wouldn't single one retailer out myself as knocking it out of the park to the exclusion of others, but I'd say that there are, a good number that are taking their individual approach and being very, very successful. So,
Yeah.
and you've got different program structures all over the map. So I don't know, Jeannie, if you can think of a
Yeah, I mean,
particular
I think
example or.
I think we're aware of some brands just because of longevity of programs. So maybe they've had a program for a very long time, and so you look at them for excellence just because they've been in the game for a long time, and sometimes they've learned a lot through that long period of time and have grown and evolved their program, and so they're successful for that reason. You've got some new players coming into it, and loyalty has changed so much through the last 20 years, and Bill and I've been able to witness majority of that. And so a lot of people that got in the game early on didn't have all of the luxuries that are there from a technology standpoint, that are easily accessible for retailers now. And years past, it was a huge investment from a financial standpoint, right? And a resource management standpoint to implement a program. And again, these platforms are so comprehensive now, and have so many opportunities to build into a lot of what we covered today within that platform. And it's a lot easier to get the information needed to create a program or develop a program and manage a program now than it was years ago. There is excellence out there, but it's in convenience and it's outside of convenience. I mean, I think if you look at any brands that are truly engaging with their customers and allowing their customers to have a voice, those are the ones that do an excellent job about reinforcing their brand in the customer's eyes.
Yeah, there's a question actually that's maybe related here. So, you had mentioned this and talked about this as really an investment, and it's more than a marketing channel. How would somebody think about, I guess depending on how you think about it, how would they think about measuring or communicating the ROI on this type of investment? If they're either saying, hey, we need to invest in the technology and team to get this going, or we're trying to change it. How do you think about calculating the ROI of loyalty programs in a more holistic way?
I'll take a try at it and let Jeannie add on to it. But I think that the core of almost any kind of a dashboard that you might create to measure a program effectiveness would have to do around incrementality. So, and this really addresses the fact that some people focus on the cost of a loyalty program, but they're not necessarily looking at what kind of benefit is it bringing me. So all they see is the expense item on the income statement. But the program, if it's effective and if it's going to return ROI, has to create incrementality. So I would always look at what is it doing in terms of changing behavior patterns on visits and gallons pumped and things along those lines, if you have an emphasis on a particular product area. But it's more than that in the sense that you have to start with your objectives. And each retailer, many that we've worked with, Jeannie and I, they have very specific objectives, or they have a competitive challenge, or they have some kind of an area of weakness or gap, or you could call it an opportunity, but they have an area of the business that they want to improve. And so the loyalty program is created just a little bit differently to address those individual objectives. So the core of measurement for me is incrementality, but maybe what you actually track with the KPIs that would go onto your dashboard would be different by retailer in some ways, depending on what they're trying to achieve.
We get another question here that I'll tweak a little bit, and it's kind of focusing on smaller chains or even maybe single stores here. How would your advice in this presentation change, if at all, when you're maybe a single store or a small chain operator?
You want to take that, Jeannie? Or?
Yeah, sure. I've worked with a lot of smaller retailers, and I don't think I would change any of the recommendations here. I think you actually have an opportunity with smaller chains to more effectively make adjustments from store to store that are really speaking to each individual customer base at those stores. I think it's really effective in smaller chains, and loyalty platform providers are able to have better cost scenarios for those smaller chains than were available to them in the past. So from a financial standpoint, it's a little easier to get into the loyalty game than it has been in the past.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah, there's lots of technology out there that can maybe do multiple of those pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, and help make that cost barrier a lot lower.
Yeah, absolutely.
One more question. I guess this is kind of the, in a way, the ever-present question over the last 6 or 7 months. Any changes that you've noticed, either anecdotally or in any data that you've been able to collect on consumer behavior and loyalty during the pandemic? And what would, if so, would that mean anything going forward? Should we think about these as lasting changes or that we need to address, or anything that you've noticed recently from there?
I would say from my point of view, companies that had loyalty programs during 2020 and all of the challenges that we've experienced were able to quickly communicate with their customers about what was happening in their stores. So maybe that was a change in hours, or maybe that was a product that they were trying to get. Maybe it was hand sanitizer or whatever it was. So I think a loyalty program really positioned a lot of companies to be able to quickly and effectively communicate what was going on, and also, make them feel comfortable about shopping with them, because you were able to reach them outside of the brick and mortar and ease their concerns and share what you were doing to protect your customers and protect your employees. And I think that was a big win for a lot of companies early on this year.
Yeah, I think so. I know that made a difference for me and my family, kind of being able to understand where to shop, how to shop, and how to safely get it done as well. And then, tended to be from the brands we were most loyal to already, probably.
Right.
Yeah, and Bill probably will, I think he may even be headed there, so I may steal his thunder on this one, but I think payment has been a big conversation over the last couple of years. And food service is really evolving within the convenience environment. And so I think 2020 has expedited a lot of things that were on the long-term roadmap for convenience from a technology upgrade standpoint. So being able to order online through a mobile app for convenience and have curbside delivery, or have delivery to their home, or whatever that be. So I think there's a lot of conversation and technology updates that convenience is kind of scrambling to implement within their environment. And so there's a lot of conversation about, is this consumer behavior change here to stay? And a lot of research being done, as we speak, on retailers that have already implemented some of those changes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that example of that, you mentioned online order, it probably was in process. We've come to learn with a lot of retailers, but the pandemic accelerated everybody's thinking, because there was that need to have a so-called contactless purchase experience. But I think one of the things that we've been seeing and hearing and have some confidence in is that online order will be here to stay. Maybe the way that those orders get fulfilled might be more sustainable in the curbside pickup area, and maybe a little bit less in delivery, just because of the cost of the delivery charges to the consumer. But the other thing we're seeing is, back to loyalty, is I think a lot of retailers were saying, gosh, we have to have online order delivery. But instead of just maybe being really quick to contract that out to one of the third-party delivery companies, now they're saying, oh, I see, we could have this service ourselves, and we could incorporate our loyalty offer with that service, and then we could bring all these customers in and make that online order delivery or pickup, that experience, part of our loyalty experience. And that's something that I think is happening more and more as we see people looking at the financial impact of that, and just also the opportunity to connect with their customers and provide them better service.
Yeah, love it. Unfortunately, I wish we could continue on for another hour. I've really enjoyed this, but we've got to got to stop and let people run off and let you two run off. Really, really, really cannot say it enough how much we appreciate you both taking the time and thought to obviously come and share with us today, but also to prepare all this content and willingness to let us share this after the meeting as well with those who were and weren't able to make it. So really, thanks again, Bill and Jeannie. Appreciate you all as partners and friends, and want to just say thanks.